So let's just jump right into this explainer. Picture this. You're just going about your day, minding your own business, right? And then suddenly, your phone lights up. It's a text from the literal last person you ever expected to hear from again. Yep, your ex. Maybe it's this super heartfelt apology, or maybe it's just that classic 2 a.m. you up text. But no matter what it actually says, it's like your emotions are instantly thrown into absolute overdrive. Your heart starts racing, your stomach drops, and your mind is just spinning in a million different directions. And right there, just staring at the glow of your screen, you're hit with one of the most debated questions out there. Should you give your ex a second chance? Instantly, you're caught in this crazy tug-of-war. On one hand, you've got your friends, and honestly, basically everyone else, telling you that going backward is a huge mistake. That an ex is an ex for a reason, right? But then, on the other hand, there's that quiet, hopeful little voice in your head wondering if maybe, just maybe, true love deserves another shot. So who's actually right here? Well, the truth is, a one-size-fits-all answer just doesn't exist. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to figure out which camp you belong in. To help untangle all this emotional confusion, we've put together a really logical step-by-step roadmap for you. We'll be covering 1. The memory trap. 2. Unpacking the past. 3. Assessing the present reality. 4. Aligning for the future. And finally, 5. Making your final decision. All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The memory trap. Beware of nostalgia. You see, the second you get that text, your brain pulls off this incredibly tricky little maneuver. Breakups have this really strange ability to warp our sense of time, making us super vulnerable to nostalgia right after they happen. Suddenly, your mind is just playing this endless highlight reel. It rushes to remind you of all the good times, the inside jokes, and those shared dreams. But wait, you have to deliberately slow down and force yourself to look at the whole truth. You know, the arguments that just went in circles, the bitter disappointment, the tears, the sleepless nights. Our minds actively try to rewrite history to protect us from pain, but you absolutely cannot make a solid decision based on a heavily edited highlight reel.
Moving on to Section 2, Unpacking the Past. Why did it actually end?
Escaping that memory trap means you've got to look completely objectively at what went down. Because honestly, you simply cannot fix a relationship if you don't actually understand what broke it in the first place. So I want you to ask yourself a few pretty heavy questions right now. First off, why did it actually end? Was it really just bad timing? Or was there repeated dishonesty, manipulation, or maybe a fundamental lack of respect? Surface-level excuses just aren't going to cut it here. Second, have you both taken responsibility? Look, it's so easy to just blame the other person, but real, healthy reconciliation demands mutual accountability. What did they do wrong? And crucially, what could you have done better? Growth really only starts when both people are willing to look in the mirror. And third, can you truly forgive without keeping score?
Which brings us to this absolutely crucial point. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. If you decide to give it another go, you can't just drag the past into every single future disagreement. You cannot weaponize their past mistakes every time you get mad. It means making the active choice not to punish them endlessly. Without genuine forgiveness, those old wounds are just going to keep controlling the relationship no matter how much you try to convince yourself you've moved on.
This brings us to Section 3, Present Reality. Assessing the present. With the past finally unpacked, we really need to anchor ourselves in the here and now. Because right now, loneliness can very easily masquerade as love. When your ex reaches out, it is so incredibly easy to confuse their longing with actual personal growth. That emotional impulse of just unbearable heartbreak makes us want to believe them instantly. But the pragmatic reality? Hopeful words and promises are cheap. Actually changing behavior takes real, undeniable time. You really have to be brutally honest with yourself here. Are you getting back together because you genuinely believe in this person? Or are you just trying to escape being alone? Heartbreak makes the quiet of your apartment feel completely deafening. I totally get it. But choosing to return to an ex just to escape the pain of being by yourself is a terrible foundation for a healthy relationship. Look closely at the situation. Can you point to real, observable changes in their behavior? Or are you just clinging to the hope that they've somehow changed?
Because think about it. If you're going to try again, trust has to be rebuilt from the ground up. And let's be real, trust was probably the thing that got broken in the first place. It absolutely does not return overnight just because someone texted, "I'm sorry." It comes back through a really patient, deliberate progression of the 3 steps you see right here: honesty, consistency, and accountability. If the two of you aren't willing to endure the uncomfortable patience it takes to walk through those 3 steps every single day, well, the relationship is guaranteed to struggle.
Okay, Section 4, Future Alignment. Aligning futures. Now, if you've unpacked the past and taken a hard look at the present, it's time to look forward. And here's the really interesting part. A successful reunion isn't about restarting your old relationship. Not at all. It's actually about building a brand new one. Think about it. People change. You've changed since the breakup, and so have they. Priorities shift. Maybe one of you realizes you want marriage now and the other still isn't ready. The truth is, love alone just isn't enough to sustain a partnership. So you have to ask, do your current life goals actually still match up? Are you actively communicating and setting healthier boundaries this time? And most importantly, does this brand new version of the relationship actually bring out the absolute best in both of you?
I want you to take a second and honestly reflect on who you became while you were with your ex. Because the healthiest relationships help both people become way better versions of themselves. Did you feel respected, supported, and safe to grow? Or did you constantly find yourself feeling anxious, insecure, and emotionally drained, like your battery was just constantly at 1%? If that unhealthy dynamic was your reality before, you have to relentlessly question what would truly be different this time around.
And that brings us to our final section. Section 5, Final Decision, Making Your Choice. All right, so we've systematically evaluated the past, the present, and the future. Now let's distill all of this down into a really clear framework. When does a second chance actually make sense? Well, if you broke up because of situational stuff, like poor communication that you've now figured out how to fix, maybe it was long distance, temporary high stress, or just immaturity that's now been replaced by mutual growth, in those cases, yeah, success is totally possible if you put in the effort. But when is it time to permanently walk away? Well, if the relationship involved a pattern of repeated dishonesty, manipulation, or disrespect. Listen to me very carefully on this one. Love should never, ever require you to sacrifice your self-respect or force you to endure lasting harm. Honestly, sometimes the healthiest, bravest decision you can possibly make is to just leave a toxic chapter permanently closed.
I really want to leave you with this one final thought. Real love isn't measured by how many times you get back together. It's measured by whether the relationship helps both people grow, feel safe, and build a better future together. Giving an ex a second chance is not about pretending the past never happened. It's about taking all those painful lessons you learned and actively using them to construct something so much stronger. At the end of the day, whether you choose to reunite or move forward all on your own, just make sure your decision brings you closer to the kind of healthy relationship you absolutely deserve. Look, relationships are incredibly personal, and I am genuinely curious to hear your take on this. Do you believe exes deserve a second chance? Why or why not? Have you ever successfully gotten back together with someone? Or was it a total disaster? Share your story in the comments down below. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.